Richard had spotted distant houses that looked to be quite grand. Well-dressed people walked those streets. Occasionally he saw them in carriages. They were people who neither dirtied their hands or soiled their morals with business. They were men of principle. They were officials of the order who saw to it that those with the ability sacrificed for the cause of the order. "Self-sacrifice is the moral duty of all people," Nicky said in challenge to his clenched teeth. Richard could not hold his tongue. "Self-sacrifice is the obscene and senseless suicide of slaves." Nicky gaped at him. It was as if he had just said that a mother's milk was poison to her newborn. "Richard, I do believe that that's the cruelest thing I've ever heard you say. It's cruel to say that I would not happily sacrifice myself for that thug, Gotti, or for some other thug I don't know. It's cruel not to willingly sacrifice what's mine to any greedy wretch who lusts to possess plundered goods, the unearned, even at the cost of their victims' blood. Self-sacrifice for a value held dear, for a life held dear, for freedom and the freedom of those you respect. Self-sacrifice such as mine for Kalen's life is the only rationally valid sacrifice. To be selfless means you are a slave who must surrender your most priceless possession, your life, to any smirking thief who demands it. The suicide of self-sacrifice is but a requirement imposed by masters on slaves. Since there is a knife to my throat, it is not to my good that I am stripped of what I earned by my own hand and mind. It is only to the good of the one with the knife, and those who by weight of numbers but not reason dictate what is the good of all, those cheering him on so they might lap up any drop of blood their masters miss. Life is precious. That's why sacrifice for freedom is rational. It is for life itself and your ability to live it that you act, since life without freedom is the slow, sure death of self-sacrifice to the good of mankind, who is always someone else. Mankind is just a collection of individuals. Why should everyone's life be more important, more precious, more valuable than yours? Mindless, mandatory self-sacrifice is insane." She stared not at him, but at the flame dancing on the pool of linseed oil. "You don't really mean that, Richard. You're just tired and angry that you have to work at night, too, just to get by. You should realize that all those others you help are there to help society, including you, should you be the one in desperate need." Richard didn't bother to argue with her, and said only, "I feel sorry for you, Nicky. You don't even know the value of your own life. Sacrifice could mean nothing to you." "That's not true, Richard," she whispered. "I sacrificed for you. I saved what millet we had for you, that you might have strength." "The strength to stand upright when I throw my life away? Why did you sacrifice your dinner, Nicky?" "Because it was the right thing to do. It was for the good of others." He nodded as he peered at her in the dim light. "You would endanger your life to starvation for others, for any others?" He pointed a thumb back over his shoulder. "How about that thug Gotti? Would you starve to death so he might eat?" "It might mean something, Nicky, if it was a sacrifice for someone you value, but it isn't. It's a sacrifice to some mindless gray ideal of the order." When she didn't answer, Richard pushed the rest of his dinner before her. "I don't want your meaningless sacrifice." She stared at the bowl of millet for an eternity. Richard felt sorry for her, for what she couldn't understand as she stared at the bowl. He thought about what would happen to Kalen if Nicky were to fall sick from not getting enough to eat. "Eat, Nicky," he said softly. She finally picked up her spoon and did as he said. When she had finished, she looked up with those blue eyes that seemed so eager for the sight of something he could not make her see. She slid the empty bowl to the center of the table. "Thank you, Richard, for the meal." "Why thank me? I am a selfless slave, expected to sacrifice for any worthless person who presents their need to me." He strode to the door. With his hand on the loose knob, he turned back. "I have to go, or I will lose my work." Her big blue eyes were brimming with tears as she nodded.